Attending today. The recording has started. Thank you, Debbie. My name is Adam Anfinson. I'm the Director of Budget Strategies and Forecasting here at the Department of Health. Lots of changes afoot at the Department of Health right now. As you know, Amy Ferris, our longtime Chief Financial Officer, is heading out the door and will not be with us any longer after 30 years. So she is not here today. She is moving into her new role next week and is gone. But we're in the new world. We're moving forward. And Allie Kelly, who's our acting Chief Financial Officer, had a conflict and was not able to make it today. Next slide, please. I'm not seeing the slides move for me. Yes, I am. Okay. Just a quick reminder that we do not allow the use of AI note-taking bots or applications here in meetings hosted by DOH. So if we see those pop into the meeting chat, you will be removed from the meeting and you can rejoin once you've turned that application off. Thank you for helping us in that respect with respect to record retention requirements. Next slide, please. Okay, I do suspect it will be a relatively quick call today, technology issues and lack of attendance notwithstanding, but Ruth will give a quick accounting and grants updates. I will provide some budget updates with respect to state budget development processes and quick federal budget update. Going to hand it over to Jeff Ketchel after that, our Director of Foundational Public Health Services, to talk about the recent Foundational Public Health Steering Committee evergreen reduction processes and where things stand as of today after those efforts over the past couple months. Then we're going to hand it over to Timolyn Abram, our new Director of Contracts and Procurement, to talk about the consolidated contracts. I will have a little bit of time for questions and answer then. And we do not have a training scheduled for today or for next month. Next slide, please. All right, Ruth, I'm going to hand it over to you to talk through accounting and grants. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, good morning. My name is Ruth Nyendo. I'm here as Contracts Payable Supervisor. I oversee the team that handles the consolidated contracts payments, and I just want to provide a few updates in regards to our fiscal close. Next slide, please. So fiscal close is fast approaching, and it's that time where we are required to provide timely billing, put them together, and ensure that we are updating our records with these billings, and this will allow us to process accurately for accruals. We will be needing to ensure that we have funding for any billings that are going to be in the prior fiscal year, and this is through the process of accruals for the consolidated contracts. We will also be asking that you provide accurate accounting expenditures that should be registered in fiscal year 26, and we will need all LSJs to submit all these billings or estimated billings by through June 30th to DOH program before July 15th. That will give program sufficient time to work on those billings and send them over to us for processing. It's a good time for us to review these billings and record them to determine any missed billings or any payments that have not been received, or those that have been unbilled, or those that have been inaccurately categorized. So we ask you that you give this the priority that you can. Next slide, please. This is just to provide the reminder of our due date for the LSJ bar report data. I'm very grateful to those who've already sent them out. We've had interactions with those who've sent them out and have errors. I want to emphasize that providing the BARS report to the 7th digit is very important for the reconciliation process. And as we work through that, kindly know that our target time is May 30th of 2026, and we appreciate the work that you do. If you do finalize these reports, please send them to the LSJ invoice at doh.wa.gov, and I appreciate you all. Thank you. I'll be handing it back to Adam. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate it. All right, as promised, I have a couple slides to talk through on budget updates. The first one here is a timeline of our 2027-2029 state budget development process. This is going to look and feel much like the same slides that I've been showing you for years, but in this slide here, I'm really focusing on just the portion of time from May really through the end of September. And so it's May, obviously late May, internally within DOH since the moment that session ended. And now we have begun to talk about agency request legislation and decision packages for the 2027-29 biennial budget process, as well as the second supplemental budget, which is the process that adjusts the second year of the current biennial budget. Couple things to note just about general budget environment is challenging fiscal environment remains. That's not looking like it's likely to change. We have not seen governor's budget instructions yet. We will see those likely sometime within the next 2 to 3 weeks here. If you look at the second bullet down on the bottom there on the timeline. But I will say just monitoring revenue collections over the past couple months, we've seen somewhat of a drop in revenue materializing within the last, relative to the forecast that was just adopted by the legislature in the most recent conference budget. We'll see a revenue update in June that will help frame whatever the state environment is looking at when agencies are submitting their budgets throughout the summer that ultimately the governor considers. But that environment continues to underlie things as it has for the past couple sessions. June 11th, 2026 is our meeting with our Foundational Public Health Services Steering Committee. That's on there because we talk about what the budget development process looks like with respect to FPHS. In July, we have another space where we will reshare with our FPHS partners our list of DPs that have Foundational Public Health Services within them. In August, we will do the normal distribution of what we call our one-page summary of agency request legislation and decision packages for our policy level decision packages, and we distribute that out to our partners, and we hold a couple different webinars, one for our tribal partners and another for our local health jurisdictions and other partners. All that culminates in early to mid-September, where we're finalizing and submitting all of the various budget reports through our central budget office. It's quite a load of work during a biennial budget build, a lot more documents to submit, and ultimately that gets submitted usually it's around September 15th. Agency request legislation timelines and decision package / budget timelines are a little bit different, but mid-month is typically when that's due. And then, of course, that kicks off the process from September to December, where the Governor's Office of Financial Management, or OFM, is working with governor's policy and having to do this across the entire state environment to make the budget balance before the legislature ultimately gets to consider it next year. So in a snapshot, that's the budget process on the state side. Let's do a quick update on the federal side. If I could move to the next slide, please. The last time we talked about the federal budget, for federal fiscal year 26, which runs from October 1, 2025 to 9/30/2026, most of the funding that DOH relies on or our partners rely on had been passed back in February to get those continuing resolutions funded for the full year. There was the Department of Homeland Security was hanging out there and was still in shutdown mode, and that was primarily around disagreements in Congress around immigration and custom enforcement and border patrol activities. But know that since we last met, there was a budget bill signed into law on April 30th, 2026, which ended that shutdown for DHS and funded them through 9/30/26. It didn't put the issues to bed around ICE enforcement and those things there. That conversation is now moved toward a reconciliation process, which I'm not going to get into the weeds on here, but if you click on that link there on our WA portal site, you can see information about the federal appropriations process, if that's interesting for you to read through. Third bullet there, but the second main bullet is around the release of the federal fiscal year 27 budget proposal. That was released on April 3rd. There's way too much to go through in this call on what's involved in that budget drop. There's a link there that Association of State and Territorial Health Officials, or ASTO, put together. That's a great primer on it. You will note that there are a whole host of changes within that budget proposal. At the highest level, it's about a 12.5% decrease of HHS discretionary funding authority being proposed. There's elimination of certain funds that are critical for CDC activities. And there's also the attempt to reestablish the other Administration for a Healthy America agency that was part of the reorganization conversations within the Department of Health and Human Services. There's that old saying, the president proposes, Congress disposes. Usually the president's budget doesn't have a lot of legs once it gets into Congress. Congress does what they're going to do with it. And this process usually takes us all the way through into the late fall. And, I assume we'll see the same thing later this summer, where we're up against the potential shutdowns, or hopefully we'll get a continuing resolution, maybe more quickly than we have in the past, given that it's an election year. So really just want you to have that out there for awareness, to see some of the things that are being proposed to be adjusted in that federal budget. But at this point, know that it's already moved into the space where the House is deliberating on what that budget looks like. And we will continue to come back to you each month and share updates on that process as it continues. Next slide, please. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Jeff, who has graced us today with the ability to speak through some of these things that he has been living and leading for the past couple of months. And without further ado, the floor is yours, Jeff.
All right, thanks everybody. Good morning. Next slide. So I am just one cog in a large machine here that includes tribes, tribal health organizations, State Board of Health, Department of Health colleagues of mine, and local health jurisdictions in WSALFO. So there's a lot of pieces here. The past 3+ months have been busy for FPHS, starting with the end of session and the governor signing the budget, where the legislature and the governor did not address the $21 million shortfall that was affecting the FPHS account due to vape tax being redefined as a nicotine product and therefore going directly to the general fund instead of into our account. We had a number of rapid succession steering committee meetings through April and May. We were able to stick with our timeline. We wanted to complete concurrence by May 7th, and as difficult as it was, and just the brutality of the decisions that had to be made, we were able to complete that thanks to everyone who participated and worked towards that conclusion. And so a few days later, we were able to send off the concurrence letter to the Office of Financial Management, co-signed by the 4 sectors. We then, DOH began to notify staff here of position issue, loss of positions due to these cuts and reductions. And then we were able to start sharing some of that information out after that was completed. Last week, we had a meeting with LHJ leadership, and we have another one with tribes set up for June 10th. OFM got back to us really quickly with approval of our concurrence. This is the fastest I've ever seen it. And today we're sharing a lot of this information more broadly to where we are. Next slide. So just a quick overview of the process the steering committee used. So when we went through cuts and reductions last year, we didn't have a process in place, and it was a little building the airplane as we flew it. This time around, the steering committee was very thoughtful about creating a step-by-step process, starting with determining our strategies and principles and priorities for how we wanted to approach this. Investments got split into 2 categories, system level and sector level. And system level was defined by those investments that are across more than one sector, like our hepatitis C work, or investments to one sector that benefits the whole system, like the public health lab and data systems. And then lastly, the last system type of system investments is enterprise investments that fund positions like mine. And then everything else was sector. And so first, the steering committee made decisions about what system investments to cut or reduce. Once that was deemed complete, the remaining amount of money that we had to reduce was then split up amongst Department of Health and local health jurisdictions and WSALFO. And worked those two sectors worked independently and autonomously to determine where to make those cuts and reductions, and brought back to the steering committee where those were affirmed and we were complete. So that's it. Next slide. Thanks.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to talk about consolidated contract updates next, and I want to give a special recognition to Timolyn Abram. She's our new Director of Contracts and Procurement, and I think this might be her first time meeting with all of you. As you know, or I believe you know, Alice Bend, our Contracts and Procurement Director, recently retired. So we wish her well. We miss her, but we certainly welcome Timolyn onto the team and are excited to work with her and excited to introduce her to the team today. So Timolyn.
Thank you. And this is my first meeting, so be gentle and kind and give me a little bit of grace. So I did want to talk about the June amendments. Of course, you know, the process is actively underway. And we appreciate LHJ partnership and engagement throughout the review timeline. The key dates, so the draft SOWs were due from programs on May 13th. May 14th through the 22nd was the SOW review period for LHJs, with the exception of FPHS. The regular CONCON budget SOW review period has now ended, of course, and some of FPHS budgets are still being finalized and may go through the standard LHJ draft review period. We are getting assistance with review efforts in order to help meet internal processing deadlines. If any errors or adjustments are identified later, they can be addressed through a future amendment. So that's great. May 29th, final SOWs are due from programs. And on June 30th, DOH plans to issue the June 2026 amendments. Again, the most important takeaway for LHJs is that FPHS SOWs will still be included in the June amendments, even if LHJs did not receive a draft copy during their standard review period. I think that is all I have. Bree, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I do want to open up the floor for Bree from WSALFO to add to the conversation, since I know that you obviously have been working hand in hand with your local health partners here.
Absolutely, thank you.
So Bree, appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Thanks everyone, and hi Timolyn, nice to meet you. So I'm Bree from WSALFO, and I've been working with all of our LHJs over the past few weeks to get their CONCON revisions in. As of today, I think we've heard from everyone that, you know, they're working on it, which is awesome. So thank you, LHJs. We have a couple little tweaks that we need a few of them to make. And other than that, we are good to go. Big shout out to Trina, who's been helping me translate those revisions from LHJs into the CONCON. That's been a really seamless process this year. So those LHJs who submitted their revisions after that, 14th to 22nd draft period, we're just doing some internal, layers of WSALFO review of your CONCON with DOH. So we are working hard on it and appreciate your patience, but excited that it's moving quickly and excited that we'll get you your funds on time. Hopefully.
That's great.
Thank you, Bree.
Awesome. Timolyn, anything else to share on that, or?
That is it. I'm happy to be here and I look forward to working with you all. Until next time.
Okay, I think that's our last slide for the main slideshow. I do want to address the technical glitches that we have experienced today in this meeting. For some reason, the invite was not normally allowing people from external organizations in as it normally would. So I know a couple people that I've seen pop on throughout the end of the call here know that we have recorded the call. We will get the recorded call out. And then depending on, if you could do me a favor, if you're from a local health jurisdiction, just write in the chat here from such and such organization so I can get a sense of how many actually were reached today. That would be really great. Debbie on our team is going to talk to our IT department about why our invite did not allow people in as it normally does. And then depending on how few local health jurisdictions are here, maybe we'll make a space, or we'll consider making a space to have this conversation again if it would add value. And Bree, you and I can talk about whether that's helpful ultimately. But we do have the recorded slides. I do appreciate you all showing up. And again, apologies on behalf of Teams, I guess, today, and why it didn't do the things we were expecting. But any questions from those of you that are here?
Hey, Adam, can I do a quick plug for the annual reporting forum?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it, Bree.
Great. So for the LHJs who are here and those watching the recording, we have been also working on our annual reporting forms for FPHS. And so this will be your retroactive annual reporting form for fiscal year 26. And so those will be sent out, we think, by this Friday. Those will come from me. And the due date for those is mid-July. So you've got some time, but we didn't want to overlap you guys with 2 deadlines from WSOLFO. So we wanted to wait for this CONCON amendment process to go through. And then we'll be sending out the ARF. We will have a open office hours that I believe the invite was sent yesterday to all LHJ administrators and the fiscal staff that we have contact information for. And I think that's June 9th or something. It's the Wednesday, not next Wednesday, but the one after. So keep an eye out on your calendar for that, as well as the reporting forums that will be coming to you by the end of this week. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you, Bree. Any further questions? Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody coming today. Again, apologies for the technical glitches, but I'm happy that at least a handful of you were able to get in today. And then we'll, yes, we will get the slides out, the question in the chat there. And we have a process where we distribute those through the LHJ email list. And so we'll get that out to you, and then we'll have follow up on whether or not we hold another attendance for this. So appreciate it, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.